Hello, welcome to Watches, Whiskey and Cigars. Today I'm going to give you a good 3 whiskey collection. Beginner collection, so a Scotch, a bourbon, if you like bourbon, and an Irish whiskey. These whiskies have all come from my own experiences of taste. I've tried a lot and some have been enjoyable, most have been enjoyable to be fair, some haven't. So you're learning from my mistakes, and these are the best bottom shelf whiskies of Scotch, Irish and bourbon that you can buy, in my opinion. If you want to argue that, feel free to in the comments, because I'm open to suggestions, and a lot of these whiskies have actually come by suggestion, So anyway, we'll start off with a good, a Scotch whiskey, like everybody straight away thinks with the Scotch is Johnny Walker. Now, Johnny Walker is okay. This is red label. You can get red label. You can get black label as well. That's a small black label. I buy cigars. Usually if I don't buy a bottle of whiskey and I buy a couple of cigars from Whiskey and More, which is where I buy them in New Zealand, I'll usually get a small bottle of whiskey to go with the cigars, just to beef up the order. Like, for example, I got me a little JD's the other day as well. That's a little 200ml. But anyway, yeah, a lot of people think Johnny Walker. Now, I don't mind Johnny Walker. I was talking to a guy in the liquor store owner the other day. He said this is the most popular Scotch whiskey there is, but it's not the one I would choose for my list today. You find that the black label is better, tastes smoother than the red label. The red label's a lot cheaper. It's a blended malt whiskey. Red label is hit and miss, I find, but it's not a bad option, Johnny Walker. But I would choose for my Scotch whiskey this Monkey Shoulder. It's a good smooth whiskey. This is, look, the price compared to, say, for this Johnny Walker red label, you're looking at about $50. Actually, no, you're looking at about $40 for the red label. For a bottle the same size as that one, a bigger one, for the black label, you're looking at about $50. This, you're looking at about $70 to $80. But, for not going up in price, not a lot, it's so much different. Like this whiskey here, you can actually drink without mixing. I still mix it. It's not a top shelf or anything. It's still a bottom shelf whiskey, but it's one that, you can drink without mixing, You can at least bear a glass of it. So that Monkey Shoulder, it's a really cool looking bottle too. Looks really cool in your collection. I would add that, okay? Right, so that's that. Now we're going to move on to the next type of whiskey, which will be Irish whiskey. For me, this was a hard one, but I come up with this Jameson Irish whiskey. I tried a couple of different Irish whiskies, and I was actually into this tonight. I had a few drinks. Me and my dad had a few drinks, and it is a really nice, smooth whiskey. The first glass I had of it tonight, I had straight, just a small amount in the bottom of a glass, and it went down all right. It's not one that you really want. It's a mixer, it's a bottom shelf whiskey. The other one I was thinking of was Proper 12, which is Conor McGregor's, but I've tried both of them. I think that Jameson is actually better than Proper 12. No, Proper 12's all right too. Like, if you're watching this, Conor, yeah, no offense, and I'm sorry, but yeah, Jameson's a good Irish whiskey. Now, I'd actually never had Irish whiskey till recently. I'd always been a bourbon drinker, not a big drinker, but I'd always drink bourbon. But this is a very, very good value for money whiskey. Now, this in New Zealand, I bought this bottle here for $49 tonight. Well worth it, For 700ml bottle. Jameson, you can't go wrong for your first Irish whiskey for your collection. And the good thing about these bottom shelf whiskies is you're not tying up hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I mean, if you can afford that, all well and good. But, your friends come over, you can crack open one of these, or both of them, and, you can use them. And that's a lot of the expensive whiskies people buy them. They don't want to drink them. They just sit on them, and then their kids inherit them, and their kids' kids inherit them. And then somebody will get them who doesn't even know what it means to have an aged whiskey, and they'll just get drunk anyway. So yeah, you're better off to have whiskies that you can drink, in my opinion. Now, the next one is bourbon. If you want a good cheap bourbon, this is probably the cheapest on the market, Old Crow. Very, very sweet. Like, I find 2 glasses of this is kind of enough. I wouldn't choose this as my for your 3 whiskey collection, but it's not bad. You're not going to go wrong if you buy it. It's a whiskey that you can drink, pull out with your friends, have a couple of shots of it. You know, it's not as bad as what people say, you know. But the whiskey I would, you know, value for money that I would choose for a cheap bottom shelf whiskey, you can't go wrong with Jim Beam, you know. The other one, of course, is the JD's, Jack Daniels, which is probably a slightly step up from Jim Beam, in my opinion. But for value for money, all-round taste, I think you're better off with the Jim Beam. You can always find a good Jim Beam. Everyone likes Jim Beam, you know, and it's a bottom shelf whiskey. A lot of people think, you know, that these whiskies, the Jack Daniels, the Jim Beams, and those kind of things are good whiskies. They're not. They're good bottom shelf whiskies, you know. They're the best of the bad whiskies, you know, but they're drinkable, and, you know, you can enjoy a good glass of whiskey for not too much money, and that's the beauty of them. You're not spending $500-600 for a 30-year-old bottle of whiskey. You know, you can just crack it open. I mean, this is like $37 something New Zealand. It's cheap as chips. I don't know what it would be in America. It would be under 20, you know. So yeah, that's it. That's my collection. The monkey shoulder for your Scotch. Boom. Your Jim Beam for your bourbon. Your Jameson for your Irish whiskey. You know, we've all got a bit of Irish in us. So yeah, that's my video for today, and I think that's a pretty smart choice. If you get those 3 whiskies, you won't be disappointed. You'll enjoy the taste, good value for money. Your wife's not going to kill you. You know, if you want to get into whiskey, you're married or whatever, you don't want to go spending hundreds of dollars. Otherwise, your wife's going to kill you. You know, you've got to be reasonable. You know, family first over alcohol. You know, I'll show you cigars in some of my other videos, but, you know, it's always family first over all of those things. If there's money left over and, you know, you want to spend it on that, then do it. But, you know, it's always alcohol always comes last in your life. Just remember that, and you'll be right. Thank you.